because I have all of my participants in place. I have Poinsettia. She's just joined the call. Can you hear us, Poinsettia? Okay, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And so Brother Grant is recording this for us, and as more come on, we'll be able to adjust our schedule. So again, thank you for logging in and participating in what we call this Brotherhood Enlightenment series within the programs of our fraternity. Each program director within our state, we have the responsibility of at least once per month on a rotating basis, having a focus area that our brothers can benefit from. This series for education not only is open to the brothers of the state of Florida, but across the country. And then we even extended this opportunity to our Zeta Sorors if they are interested in logging on to get some nuggets. So before we get started, I'm going to ask that Brother Grant will unmute his camera, give us some greetings, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Brother Griffin. So honored and just proud of the work that you are doing within the state. When you brought this to the board and the decision to have this as a part of our series, just super excited about it. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us. Thank every brother or sister that's out there that's joining us. What might be recorded later on, they might be able to look. I'm just excited because this is exactly what we need to be doing, helping our younger generation to make sure they get into a position where they can get the employment necessary, get the tutelage to just be able to go about their lives and just improve the lives of themselves and our students. God knows we need as many teachers as we can get, especially people of color teaching, especially men of color teaching our young men. So Joe, I'm just excited. I'm just hoping that as a result of this, we get literally hundreds of new teachers coming out and about from it. So again, thank everybody for joining us. We appreciate you. And Brother Griffin, the floor is yours, my brother.
Thank you very much, dear Brother State Director. So we're going to get started. I want to introduce the special guest panelists that we have. We have some of the closest people that I know that are on the front lines of education in the state of Florida. I want to start off by introducing Dr. Poinsettia Tillman. Dr. Tillman serves as a senior director for ESE within the Polk County School Board. One of her focus areas in which I'm excited about is that she's responsible for assisting not only teachers, but administrators with professional development in order to for them to acquire their ESC certification. Does that sound accurate, Poinsettia?
Yes, and to better serve our students with disabilities. So strategies and support for all teachers and administrators who support students with disabilities, as well as parents.
Okay. And she's been doing this for quite a while. She's really good. Trust me, she's really, really good at the work that she's done. She is a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. She's within our local chapter here in the Polk County, Florida area. Next, we have a good friend of mine who I've known for a number of years. She has served both in the middle school capacity as an administrator, and she has served on the senior high school level. She's both served in public school districts, and now she serves in the charter school district. That is my good friend, Donna Drisdom. Donna currently serves as the principal at Edward W. Bach Academy North, which is located in Lake Wales, Florida. So Donna, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So all that Joe stated was correct. I have about 32 years of experience in education, as he said, both on the high school level and on the middle school level. And now I'm in a new arena in the charter school system, really building this school. It's a new middle school. It's only been in existence 3 years. I've been in it 2 of those 3 years, and just trying to build capacity, just as I've done when I was in the public school system. Met Joe and Carol during that time when I was in the public school system, and met not a friend, but a brother and a sister, and loved them so much. And I met Dr. Tillman and another sister, not just a friend, but someone that you could call on, tag into, to do what we look for, which is to build capacity and knowledge in students and parents. So thanks, Joe, for inviting me.
No problem. And she is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She's also a graduate of Florida A&M University. And so we're very good friends, and I appreciate her being as one of the panelists on this call. And last but not least, somebody who I'm very, very close to. Matter of fact, we share the same kitchen. None other than Mrs. Carol Griffin. Carol has her experience in middle school and in elementary education. She served as an assistant principal at the 3rd highest ranking elementary school in the state of Florida, which was Lincoln Academy. And then she went on and became the assistant principal at Rochelle School of the Arts, which is a music academy here in the Polk County, Florida area. And then our superintendent tapped her to go over to become the principal of Oscar J. Pope Elementary School. Oscar J. Pope has a very interesting clientele of students. She has quite a number of students that are attending her school that have exceptional disabilities, but they're not an ESC school per se. So Mrs. Griffin, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
You handled that very well. I'm so proud of you. I am truly well-rounded. I will say education is my second career. I worked 20 years for General Motors. And when 9/11 happened and corporate started to go all types of way, I decided to be a stay-at-home wife for a year. My husband gained 50 pounds and he told me it was time for me to go back to work. So I went into education, back into education. And by going back into education, I taught at Mulberry Middle for 6 years. So I drove an hour each day one way.
We'll turn this off.
So I was on the road for 2 hours, loved it. And he's right. I worked at Lincoln Academy, which is the 3rd highest school in the state of Florida. It's a school of STEM, so they specialize. I tell everybody, if you're interested in engineering, science, or math, Lincoln is the school you want to go to. Left Lincoln, went to Rochelle School of the Arts, which is a fine arts school, not only just music, but it's music, it's visual arts, dance, band, theater. And then I went to Oscar J. Pope. So I am very well-rounded. And I tell everybody who is in the Polk County area, and Dr. Tillman as well as Donna knows, Oscar J. Pope is unique. Oscar J. Pope is 2 schools in one. Years ago, it used to be the ESC hub of Polk County. That has since changed, but I still have those kids with those exceptionalities on my campus. So we have a Gen Ed population, as well as students that have autism, students that are deaf, hard of hearing, because we're the flow school for deaf, hard of hearing. When I first got there, I had students who were visually impaired. I have students who are medically profound, who require everything taken care of for them. And they're treated no different on my campus than the Gen Ed kids. I'm about 33% ESC. So that is who we are. Oscar J. Pope, I tell anybody that I hire, it's not a school that you grow on. It's a school you either love it or you hate it. And we are truly a family. My LEA facilitator has been there 31 years. That's the only school she's worked at. So that's a little bit of who I am. Love it though. Love my school.
And Mrs. Griffin is a proud member of Delta Sigma
Delta Sigma
Sorority.
Theta Sorority Incorporated.
So
And have been for 42 years.
So as you can see, I've selected a diverse group of educational leaders who have an opportunity to share with everyone on the call, what does it take for you to land that teaching job? So what we're going to do is we're going to pose some general questions to our panel, and then we're going to give you an opportunity through the chat or with the hand raise feature on Zoom to ask them some questions. So now let me give you a little background. Right now, within the month of May, it is open hiring season for school districts around the country. This is the time where principals are starting to get ready to close out their school year to get ready for the new school year. So the question is, what does it take for me to get that one job in the field of education? So we're going to start out by asking each of you, and I'm going to start in random order. So as a building principal or a district level administrator, I need you to share, how do you determine the staffing makeup for your school or your area prior to the start of the new school year? So I'm going to have Dr. Tillman to start. So again, share, how do you determine the staffing makeup for your area prior to the start of a new school year?
Okay, so my position is a little unique. I cover 3 school districts, but Polk is my largest. And so I look at functions in my department. We do child find, we do professional development, we do technology, instructional and assistive technology, and we do parent services. So we look at our grant priorities. We look at the data across the district to see what the needs are. We send out surveys from stakeholders to see what we need to plan for the upcoming school year. And then we talk to leaders in the district and ask for their input on district needs. And then we plan our staff according to that. So one thing that we do again is child find. So we're tasked with early identification. So we need staff to help us identify at-risk students and have them staffed by their 3rd birthday, because we do 3 to 5 year olds before they get into K-12, so that we can help close some of the gaps. So we look at those needs, how many students we're looking at coming from early steps in the 0 to 2 arena, how many referrals we get from the daycares, from the doctor's offices, from parents referring, from preschools referring, and that's how we determine the makeup of our staff.
Okay. What about you, Ms. Drisdom?
So what I do, I data gather all year during the school year, and then just try to determine from there how many students am I projected to have in the school. And I'm looking at data analysis to try to determine where those students are going to land. And when I say that, I'm talking about assessments. And so when you data gather, you're looking at all aspects. You're looking at those students who have received discipline referrals. You're looking at those students with attendance problems. You're looking at those students who matriculate between school to school to try to determine what is going to be your base number for that particular school year. And then from there, you're determining, well, how many teachers will I need? So for that, you have to figure out your class size. So are we going to do class size, or are we going to do school size average? And so most of the time we start out with class average. So for a middle school, we know that the class average is between 22 to 25 students per class, but you also know that those students that may be in an intensive reading or need that extra math, those classes need to be smaller than that. or you may have that ESC setting where they're getting that support. And so those classes need to be smaller than that. And so you're trying to figure out all of that. And then the most important, I think, is that I look at the demographic makeup of the school, because we want people within our school that looks like our students. That is so important for me. So those are the things that I generally look at as I'm preparing for the next year.
Okay. And Ms. Griffin, what about you?
And I'm going to kind of ditto some of the same things that Donna said. I first look at my vacancies. So I have to look at the current vacancies that I have. And what we're running into in Polk County is you may have some vacancies that you have all year. And that vacancy is being filled by a provisional sub. Well, you know, that provisional sub is only allowed to work in Polk County one school term, and then they're released by the district. So I first look at my vacancies. I look at the number of students that I have currently, the number that I'm anticipating, and the needs. I have to also look at Gen Ed as well as my students with disability. I also have to look at paras, because if I'm anticipating that I may have students who receive a McKay scholarship, which I do have quite a few that come because of the makeup of my school. So I have to look at which kids are coming from, I'll just say Achievement Academy. Achievement Academy in Polk County can only keep kids up to the age of, I think, 4. So by the time they're getting in kindergarten, they've got to be placed at a school that deals with students who have autism. Well, my school just happens to be that school that those students usually are McKay to. So I have to look at kids that I'm anticipating who are going to receive a McKay scholarship to come to my school. And most importantly, like Donna said earlier, the demographics of the school, because my school has a high population of Hispanic students. So with Hispanic students that are coming to my school who can only look at you and smile, I'm going to be looking for somebody who's bilingual, who's going to be able to speak to that child and get that child acclimated to school. So I have to take all that in consideration. And the data is so very important, because once you place those kids, you can't just put anybody in that position. You've got to put somebody in that position who probably has some experience at moving kids or taking those kids from where they are and taking them to the next level.
So all of that is very important. So basically, what they have shared for those of you who are on this call is that they have to determine what vacancies that they're going to anticipate for the new year, and that's where they will be working from. So that sounds good. So now here's another question that I want to ask you, and I'm going to start with you, Ms. Drisdom. How important is diversity in your building, especially in light of the makeup of people of color in both staff and students? You're muted.
Thanks, Jill. As we stated before, I think that's one of the most important. We know that students need to see those that look like them. They need to also see those that have their demographic makeup, those that will know about their experiences and where they're coming from. The old adage of, if I can see it, then I know that it's achievable, is true. If I don't see people of color working in higher capacities, then I think that the only jobs that I may be able to get and sustain are the ones where I work in the warehouse, and that is not so. We also need them to understand what traumas, a lot of people don't like to talk about that. Within different nationalities, there are different traumas that come about. And so those students need to have someone that they can go to. They need a go-to person. So when I'm looking again, I'm not going to advertise my job as such. However, I know what I'm looking for based on the demographics that I have in my school.
Okay. What about you, Dr. Tillman, and the district level? How important is diversity in your department? You're muted.
So
Go ahead.
I ditto what Ms. Drisdom has said as well. Diversity is very important. Again, our stakeholders, our teachers who want to move up, who take our professional development, they need to see people in the district in these different positions that says that it's attainable for them. Because I have had people in around the district when I am at Jim Miles or other places ask me, how did you get that position? I would like a position like that. So I think it's very important. In light of that, I know diversity also can be many different things. It's not just color, but I mean, it can also be individual qualifications, education levels. It could be gender, it could be experiences. So we have to value the mental, emotional, and psychological differences among the people that we are interviewing. But again, I think all of, as much as possible, we should represent what our student population and our staff population mirror that in our departments.
How about you, Ms. Griffin?
A student's success is based on that person who can relate to them. Always. I'm going to just say it like this. At my school, yeah, I might be the head honcho, but at the end of the day, I can't teach my Black boys how they should act. A male teacher can't teach my girls how they should act. So yeah, I do need that diversity. And what I see in a lot of the elementary schools is we are lacking for our males. Our Black boys, and I'm going to speak for my school, my Black boys are getting in trouble because they don't have a Black male on that campus that they can relate to. With COVID, right now, we can't have volunteers on campus, so there's no big brother, big sister. My Hispanic kids, you have to look at their culture. So whereas they may feel that they're domineering or their dad is domineering in the house, okay, I let them know, when you come to Oscar J. Pope, this is my house. So I'm domineering in my house. But that doesn't help them. So I have to look for the Hispanics to relate to my Hispanic population. And I have to look for my Black males to relate to my Black boys on my campus, and my Black sisters to relate to my girls on campus. Yeah, they see me as a Black woman, but they also see me as that authoritative figure. So if I've got those components in place, then my kids are going to be successful. And you're right, it does not always have to be color. If one of my staff members comes from a very humble beginning, they can relate to my kids. Because when I look to hire, I'm straight. I tell them straight. My kids are not your kids who are going to roll up on this campus in Land Rovers and Lexus and Mercedes. Those are not my children. Their parents aren't going to roll up here. They're going to come up walking. I tell my staff, my kids might be smelly. They're going to flick you off. They might call you the B word. So how much of that can you take? Somebody who comes from that beginning, they can accept that because they can say, you know what? I grew up like that. But it was that one teacher at school that changed me and put me in a different direction. So I look at all of that when it comes to diversity, not just color. I look at, okay, can you relate to my kids?
Okay. Well, now we're building the background, and now we're getting ready to get into the nitty-gritty about what you do in order to hire teachers. So question I want to ask, and I want to start with Mrs. Griffin on this one. So what process do you typically use in selecting a pool of applicants for vacant positions in your school building?
When they apply, lucky for us, we've got a system called RHS. So when they actually apply for any of the positions, you're able to sort of look at the application. And in that application, you can see if they went to college, what they majored in. You can see what jobs they have had prior to applying for your position. One of the big things that I look for, how long did you stay at that job? If you had previous experience as a teacher or a para, do you have tenure at that school, or did you switch schools every year? And if I look on that application and I see you did 1 year at X school, and then the next year you did 1 year at another school, and you've done another year at another school, that's an application I'm not even looking at, because you're telling me you're only going to give me 1 year. And if that's the case, I want to see your experience. If you've had teaching experience, what did you teach? Because I might need a 5th grade math teacher, and you might come, your application may say you taught 5th grade math for 5 years, and you're coming from Oklahoma. Okay, you're telling me you're relocating, so you're somebody that I might be interested in.
Okay. What about you, Ms. Drisdom?
Those same things that that Carol stated. However, in the charter school system, I don't have that anymore. So I have ADG. Well, ADG is similar to the RHS system. However, there are a lot of people that are very leery of coming to the charter school system. I think because there's some, and what I found, misnomers out there. So they don't want to come because there's not a union, or they don't want to come because it's not stable. It may be unstable. So what I do is I also go to Indeed and I put the job description out there. I'm looking for those same qualities. I'm looking for that commitment. I'm looking for that. Did you stay at that school for how many years were you there? I'm looking for, what did you teach? Are you having certification issues? Are you relocating? Did someone dismiss you? So I'm looking at those same qualities because we want the best of the best. Remember, we're educating the world. And so I can't have someone that's jumping the ship, because the waters are a little rocky. We were just talking about salary change before we got started. You're chasing dollars. Education is not a place to chase the dollar. It's going to be the last place to receive the dollar. But those are the things that I look for, and those are the things that I use when I am looking for someone. And sometimes I'll take a chance on a person who's coming right out of college. I'll take a chance on you if I can see within that interviewing process that you will be committed. And you say, how do you find that? Well, I think we're going to talk about that at later on when we talk about questioning.
Mm-hmm.
But those are things that I look for.
What about you, Dr. Tillman?
Well, similar to the other two ladies, I look for traits of commitment. First I check to see who does meet the least or the basic or minimum qualifications for the position, because I do like to give more individuals an opportunity in my quest to have a diverse department. So opportunity for an interview, and I review the applications and resumes, and I'm looking for those traits of commitment. For instance, a candidate who with a graduate degree or with multiple certifications could be a good indication of a passion for pursuing learning or professional growth and long-term advancement opportunities. But again, if they've moved from job to job and hopped all over the place every year, I'm like Ms. Griffin, then I don't even entertain that, because it's very costly and time consuming to have to keep hiring people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're all right about this, because I remember it wasn't too long that I was in your seat. One of the frustrating things that I would have in my building would be consistency. you would have people that would work for a year and then they feel that that's not the school for them, and then they want to transfer to another school, or some even go back home. So the lack of consistency is a problem in the field of education. I'm going to ask this one last question of you, but then I want Brother Grant to read some of the questions that are in the chats so that we can give the viewers an opportunity to have their questions addressed. So this last question before we move there is, can y'all give me some examples of the type of questions that you typically ask the applicants that you interview? And I want to start with Ms. Drisdom first. What are some of the questions that you ask when you do the interview process?
So years ago, we used to start it out with, tell me something about yourself. Well, we don't start it out that way anymore, because when we look at your application and we look at your resume, you've told us a lot about yourself. That's your first selling point. So the type of questions that I ask are, how did you prepare yourself for this interview? Because if you're interested in the school, then you need to do some research. And then I
That's
ask you some
important.
other,
That is very important.
yes. And then I ask you some other questions to let me know if you've done any research. So tell me what you know about my school. What do you know about my school? So you should be able to tell me about the demographics of the school. You should be able to tell me what type of activities I'm doing at the school. Why? Because you've researched me. You've gone out, you've taken your time, you've gone to the school's website. You know what the demographics are. You know where I'm located. From my location, then you should know what type of students are in my school. So those are the type of questions that I'm asking you. I'm asking you, what type of instruction do you value? So when I ask you that type of question, then I'm trying to see, just as Mrs. Tillman stated before, Dr. Tillman said, I want to see, where's your thirst for knowledge? Because even if you have not worked in the educational arena, you should have done some research to know what type of strategies we're using in the schools to make sure that the students are being successful, which is another one of the questions I ask. How are you working with your students to make sure they're successful? And then you have those who have no experience. You say, well, Mrs. Drisdom, how am I going to answer those questions? I don't have any experience. Then what you do, you answer as if you are preparing to be in that position and what you would want your class to look like, what you want your students to do within the classroom in order to be successful. And so I asked about things that lets me know if there's a passion there for knowledge. Because if you don't have a passion for knowledge, guess what? You don't have a passion for teaching. And so that lets me know. And I always say this one thing, I let them know that within 30 minutes or sometimes less, you don't know if I'm a raving maniac, and I don't know if you're one, but by the time I get to the third question, I'll know whether or not I want to hire you.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's just a, I guess, a method to the madness, I guess, right, Carol?
That is so true.
And then we used to say, be careful what you ask for, because you
Right.
just may get it.
Right, right.
And then by then it's too late. You're already in the seat and you have to go through that year. What about you, Ms. Tillman?
Well, some of the similar things that Ms. Drisdom mentioned, I do ask what they know about fiddlers in our services, because I do want to see that they went to our website and that they've done their research. I ask what their philosophy is regarding the education of students with disabilities, because, I believe that all students can learn, and I want somebody else who is promoting the same message when they come and work for me. I want to know how they work as a collaborative and effective team member. I want to know how they handle problem solving when it comes to, everybody doesn't agree all the time, but we can't agree to disagree. So I want to know how they handle those situations with other people, because we are required to work collaboratively. We work on a team, and, again, all team members don't agree all the time, and we still need to be able to move past that for the greater good. And I also ask, how they use data to support the needs of students and educators and families. So just getting to know, where their mindset is, if they have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset.
Mhm.
And before we go to the chat, Ms. Griffin, you want to sum up this? What are some of the types of questions that you ask?
Well, like Donna said, you know, what do you know about Oscar J. Pope? And if they tell me I know Oscar J. Pope is an ESC school, wrong answer. We're a school that has ESC services. So you've not done your research. I've got ESC students on that campus, but I also have gen ed students on that campus too. So we're not an ESC school. Then I ask them questions like, what do you do to foster a positive environment in a classroom? I want to know. And they don't have to be a teacher to know that. You know, if I see where they've never been a teacher and they're fresh out of college, they might have done an internship, they might not have done an internship. But if you were in a classroom, what would you do to foster a positive and productive classroom climate? So I'll ask them that. I'll ask them, what is their classroom management system? You know, do you just let kids do whatever they want? Do you assign seats? I want to know, you know, what's your procedure for them getting up, wanting to go to the restroom or wanting to drink of water? So I'll ask those questions. I'll also, knowing that the FSA is big in the state of Florida, how do you use data to guide instruction? Or, you know, if you've never been in a classroom, what do you know about data? How do you take a student's score and plan how you're going to teach that classroom? So I'll ask them that. One of the big things that I will ask them is, just say, for instance, you gave an assessment to your students and 70% of those students bombed it. They just bombed it. What would you do as a teacher? So that's a thought-provoking question. You know, do they reteach it? Do they move on? And that's something you don't have to be an education major to know. Before I get to my last question, I ask this. If I were to ask your best friend to give me 5 words that would best describe you, what 5 words would your best friend give me? I just want to know. And they'll think, and I said, listen at the question. If I were to ask your best friend to give me 5 words that would best describe you, what 5 words would your best friend give me? By asking that question right there, that tells me a lot about that person who's applying for my position.
Yes, I do that too, Carol.
That's a great nugget.
Mm-hmm.
Brother State Director, can you read some of the questions that have been posed in the chat? I know that we got about 6 of them.
I can definitely do that, but I must let Principal Griffin know. I just wrote that question down. I'm adding that to my repertoire for my interviews moving forward. So thank you, just right there. First question I have listed here is, I just graduated. What can move my resume to the top of the pile, and what will push it to the do not bother list?
That's that wow factor. And that's one of the questions that we have. So Ms. Drisdom, can you answer that question? What would move that resume to the top of the pile in your view?
In order to move your resume to the top of the file and you're just graduating, it's important for you, like I said, that's your first seller. And so a principal is looking for someone with flexibility. A principal is looking for someone with passion and compassion. They're looking for someone who has a love for kids. And so if you're not involved in any type of community service where you're working with students and we read that resume and we see that, you're at the bottom of the list. You're on the do not bother for me. Because if you're saying that you have that passion to become a teacher, I need to see you involved with young people.
Okay.
So you need to make sure you're doing that.
Thank you.
And you know what? And to add to that, oftentimes I will, in fact, last year, I hired a girl from Indiana. I did a Zoom call and she sent me an electronic portfolio. where she worked with kids virtually since we were in the midst of the pandemic. Zoom call, interviewed her, and I'm going, this is somebody I can work with.
Right.
And mind you, she's not sitting across from me. We're interviewing from Zoom. So I even asked her, are you planning to move to Florida? She said, I'm moving to Lakeland. And I said, really?
Mhm.
So what moved her to the top for me, she sent that electronic portfolio to me. So I actually saw how she worked with kids virtually
Mhm.
and how she moved kids virtually. Fresh out of college. She was just graduating,
Okay.
but she had that experience. And one of the things I asked her was, prior to COVID, how did you get to know your kids outside of the classroom?
Mhm.
And one of the best answers she could have given me was standing in the hall saying good morning to them, asking them how was their weekend. Kids love it when you know their names. They absolutely love it. How's your sister doing? I saw where you played Little League football. Things like that. Just like Donna said, if they have a relationship with those kids outside,
Mhm.
when you interview with me, that's going to move you up to the top. And you could be a right out of college graduate.
Yes.
But that is huge because you're that person that I can work with. I can mold you.
Right.
That's good.
Those other
This is
things
all-
will
this
fall
is
in
all good
place.
stuff.
Yeah, other things will fall in place, teaching you strategies and all of that. But one thing we cannot teach is how to build that relationship. That has to come from within you. You have to be that person. Like I said, you're out there, you're seeking ways already to help children be successful.
Mhm.
And so if we see that, like Carol said, okay, you slide up a notch. Okay, because we know he's workable or she's workable.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
can work with that.
Okay. Brother Grant, what's the next question in the chat?
Next question we have is, what about the collegiate who wants to come to the charter system and have no experience? Are they hireable?
You are hireable. It's just what we were just talking about. Yes, you are hireable. But these are the things too that you need to make sure that you have in place as you're coming in. You can go ahead and you can send your transcripts to the state and let the state review your transcripts. That's your first thing. And they will give you what is called a statement of eligibility. Once you have that statement of eligibility, yes, you are hireable. But then those other things are what we're looking for as you begin to interview. But yes, you are.
Okay.
You are hireable.
What's the next question there, Brother Grant?
What would you say to someone who has a look that is not mainstream per se? How can they overcome the stereotypes?
Dr. Tillman, you want to answer that question?
Well, we are always looking for people who are professional, who present themselves in a professional manner, who come dressed professional, they dress the part, and who are able to, like she said, in a creative and innovative way, show that initiative and what sets them apart. I think you have to put the work in up front, like Ms. Drisdom was saying earlier, and show us how you connect with students and stakeholders in a unique way. How do you stand out differently from the next person that's being interviewed?
Yeah, I do know that, and I'm going to say like this: when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do and not the Greeks. I used to say that all the time. And what that means is that diversity has, in certain school districts, it has its limits, and hair is one of them. In some districts, I know that brothers wear dreads, but in some districts, it's not part of the professional dress. And I know that is a controversial subject, but so you just have to be very, very careful about what jobs that you are interviewing for, because you got to know the layout of the land. I know that is something that has come up.
That goes back to doing your research
Your research.
in advance.
That's right.
Yes.
Do your research in advance. Know where you're applying. know how they feel within that district, not so much your school, but that district. Remember, you have that principal who's at the school level, but then that principal has people that are above them who are going to talk to them and say, I saw Mrs. So-and-so on your campus, and that's not the look that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful, do your homework.
That is
Especially
very,
the magnet schools.
very,
The
very, yeah.
magnet schools
Yes,
are the sticklers
yes,
because they have a certain way that they want the staff to dress. They
yes.
have a certain way the kids dress. And if you go to a magnet school, they sign contracts.
Yes.
Yeah.
The parents have to sign contracts to go there. So what everybody is saying, do your research. You know, you have some of those schools, come as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Brother
I
Grant,
think-
what's the next question?
I was gonna say, I think the next question kind of piggybacks into that because it's we hear all the time about hygiene, in particular hair. Is there a style that is off limits? Is there a hairstyle that is an automatic no? What about tattoos? Visibly, should they be covered?
Oh, yeah.
You want to be professional at all times. I will say that. Do I have staff members that have tattoos? Absolutely. Are they visible? If they're huge, I remind them, you are an influence toward our kids. So you don't want to have big tattoos down your neck and all down your leg where the kids are seeing them all the time, because Polk County School says you can't have visible tattoos. You can't, even if they're the little stickers, you know, that's a part of the Polk County Code of Conduct. So you just want to represent yourself. When it comes to hair, I'm truly not a stickler. If it interferes in the educational process, then I'll have a conversation with the staff member. Such as I had a teacher came to me and she says, hey, Ms. Griffin, she said, before I do it, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to put some pink coloring in my hair. And I said, some what? And she said, some pink coloring. Well, this is my thing. If I'm telling the kids they can't do it, then you can't do it. You know, you got to model what you're expecting the kids to do. And she says, well, I'm talking about at the tip. I said, how pink are you talking? She said, not even enough to see, and it'll wash out in a couple of days. Okay, still remember, you are a role model for the kids. If you want the kids to be a certain way, then you have to model what you want them to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Brother
know
Grant,
Joe
what's the
mentioned-
next question?
Okay, go ahead.
The next one we have is, how important are references? Do you call them?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely we call them. And sometimes we call them before we interview you so that we know who we're interviewing.
Polk
Absolutely,
County-
and then Polk County requires us
We have to.
Yeah.
right, to contact your most recent employer.
Yes,
And
most
sometimes
definitely.
people put on their application may not be contacted. Well, that's an issue because we have to contact your most recent employer. So
Yeah.
my suggestion to you would be honest with your current supervisor and let them know that you're looking, because we have to contact them and they're going to find out one way or the other. So it's best if it already came from you and they're expecting it.
You
And
want
now to be
put-
a
you-
teacher, if you list 10 references on your application before you are hired, all 10 must be contacted.
Yes.
And you want to make sure that you put down the references that the people who are doing the hiring can reach.
Yes.
Numbers need to be updated and emails need to be updated,
Yes.
because that keeps the applicant from getting the position also. That was always a frustrating thing for me when I was a principal. So you are exactly right in that regard. So references are very, very important because they are checked, especially when you're dealing with children.
Like Dr. Tillman said, for me, a do not contact, that raises a flag.
Yes.
If
And the
you've
other
got on
thing-
there may not contact or do not contact, that's a red flag for me, because you listed this person, but you're telling me I can't contact them.
And
What's
then
the hidden agenda there?
Yes, and then the other thing, if you're working in the school system already, some people like to put their assistant principal down. Well, the assistant principal may supervise you, but it's your principal who's your immediate supervisor. So make sure it's a professional courtesy to let them know that you are looking. And there's a way to do that as well, to not to cause an issue. Because there is not one principal that I've ever ran across that is not going to be supportive of someone who's looking to further their career. And so if that's the case, then you state that, but don't throw up any red flags,
Yeah.
because you'll
Right.
go to the do not pal.
Right.
Yes.
Quickly go to the do not file. Brother Grant, what's the next question?
Next one we have, I'm a successful dean/guidance, dual role in a private school, only subbed in public schools. I've never been certified. What makes me competitive in the public school sector?
Well, I can tell you, I was a school counselor, but in order to be competitive in the public school sector, first you need to be certified. So like Ms. Drisdom previously mentioned, you need to get your statement of eligibility and finish the requirements to become certified. And so that you can be competitive.
Okay. Any other questions in the chat there, Brother Grant?
We have one more.
Okay.
Do you comb through social media platforms on a potential candidate? And if hired, what will be something that is posted that would be an automatic no?
Well, I
Yeah.
can say that I do. I look at
Yeah.
social media and I tell my staff, your personal social media page is an extension of you as an educator. So you still need to be professional at all times and be careful about what you post on there. You know, going back and forth in battles with other people and using profane language and, not modeling the behavior that you want to see from your students is a no-no.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Go
yes,
ahead, Ms. Drisdom.
I piggyback off of that. I do. And I say the same thing. And so you said, what would bring you to an automatic no? Those back and forths, there's no reason to go back and forth with someone. And then if you're out partying, don't put that on your social media. Remember, you are a professional at all times, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so no one needs to know all of that about your private life. Keep it private.
And I
Yeah,
think
inappropriate videos.
Yes.
And I think the important thing that prospective applicants need to understand is that when you're in the teaching profession, you are in the light.
Yes.
You're going to see kids in the grocery stores. They're going to run into you at the movie theater. They're going to see you in the mall. Matter of fact, they will say, "What are you doing here?" Like you don't go to the movie theater, or you don't go to the mall, or you don't go shopping. It's almost like you live at the schoolhouse 24/7. So what you do in the dark will come to the light. So that is an important aspect if you're going to go into the teaching profession, is that people will judge you based upon the company that you keep. We got about 5 minutes left, and I want to ask these last two questions because they are important. So, Mrs. Griffin, let me ask you this question. What is going to create that wow factor with you with an application that comes across your desk?
I would say experience. Definitely those 5 words that you give me from your best friend. And as we are going through the interview process, how well you can answer the question. And even if you have never put foot in a classroom, if I can hear the passion in your voice and you're showing me this is something that you have a desire to do, oftentimes I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to give you a chance, and I will tell you straight up, You know, I want to tell you everything about my school so that there are no surprises. And once I tell you the layout of my school, which is the very last thing I'm going to do, is tell you about it and my clientele. And if you still want that job and you convince me that you want it, I'm going to offer you that job. I'm going to give you a chance, but I'm going to tell you, burn me once, shame on me. Burn me twice, shame on you.
Okay. Ms. Drisdom, how important are long-term goals in the prospective applicant that you're looking at?
They're very important, Joe. It lets me know again, do you have that passion for knowledge, not just to exude the knowledge to the students, but for yourself? Do you take ownership for your own professional learning? Or are you waiting for me to tell you, okay, you need to sign up for this, or you need to sign up for that? So it's very important. I don't, a teacher who just wants to stay stagnant, there's no growth. I think Dr. Tillman spoke of the growth mindset. You must have that. You cannot remain stagnant, because when you remain stagnant, then you're stagnating the students within your classroom, and I can't have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got 2 minutes left. And so let me ask you each these questions. And then I appreciate your time that you spent with us. What advice can you share with those who are on the call who are trying to secure a job somewhere within their locale? What last minute advice can you give them? Ms. Griffin, we'll start with you.
If you're passionate about it and you have that passion, know that you are molding that child's future. You got to know that whatever you do in that classroom, you have an impact on the success of that child. I love my children. I do. And my kids know every day when in my announcements, I always say to them, don't you ever forget, Mrs. Griffin and Mrs. Bermudez, we love you very, very much. Have a great day. You've got to love what you're doing. Teaching, you cannot do it for the money because they don't pay you enough. I'm a principal, everybody says you make the big bucks. That's a tale. We do not make the big bucks, but I love what I do and I don't do it for the money. I do it because I'm passionate about my kids. And if somebody has a passion about molding the life of a child, I say, go for it. Go for it. Because we need more teachers. We need more administrators. And God knows we need people of color because our kids need us. I see it every single day. And my prayer every day is, Lord, help me to touch the life of a child. I would love to touch all of them. But if you'll let me just touch the life of one child, then I know that my work is not in vain.
What about you, Miss Dr. Tillman?
Well, ditto that Carol said, because our students don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. So relationship is very important, and being passionate about building those relationships and fostering the success of our students is very important. But also, regardless of where you're at when you come into the system, always continue to seek tools and resources to make yourself better. Mm-hmm. Don't remain stagnant, like Ms. Drisdom mentioned.
And Ms. Drisdom?
Ditto on all of that, but I also say, and all of that we do for our students and our families, make sure that when you're in that classroom and you see that student, see your child, or if you don't have a child, see your niece, see your nephew. Would I want my child to be in my class? Would I want them in my class? Am I working my hardest to make sure, again, that I'm giving my best? And I know sometimes we go in and we have our own luggage that we're carrying. Leave your luggage at the door. Greet your students with a smile. A lot of people shy away from hugging. Some students will run up to you. Don't shun your students. I saw in the chat, there was something about hygiene. You've got to love that student enough to be able to build that relationship and pull them to the side and say, hey, I bought a gift for you today. And it may be things for hygiene, because the last thing you want is that child to be bullied by someone because they don't have someone at home who's sharing all those things with them. You've got to remember, as an educator, you're not just imparting content knowledge. You are educating that student for life. You're teaching them how to communicate with others. You're giving them those tools that they're going to need when they go on their jobs. And so I say, if you don't have that in your heart, reevaluate where you're going.
Okay. So ladies, I want to say thank you very much. This has been very enlightening. Again, this is coming from principals and directors who are actually in the seat making the decision. Brother Mount, you had your hand up? Okay. So I want to leave you with these parting thoughts. Those of you who are interested in seeking educational positions, it doesn't matter what school district you're in around the country. Again, this is the time where you need to get things together like your transcript. You need to contact your state Department of Education to make sure that your transcript has proof that you have received a degree. In the state of Florida, you don't have to necessarily be an education major in order to secure a teaching position, but you have to show proof of passing scores on the state test in your specific area of that you're trying to teach. So you have to make sure that that is in place. So this is the time to actually get those things together. That is not going to keep you from interviewing, because most school districts are interviewing education majors and non-education majors for positions that are going to come open in August. So this is an opportunity to have those things in place, and then do your very, very best. Go into the interview saying that this job is mine. If you approach it from that perspective, then there is a high likelihood that you will get that teaching position. But again, be careful what you ask for. There is a difference between Title I schools and non-Title I schools. Not all Title I schools are bad Title I schools either. So there is a misnomer about schools that are Title I or schools that are in the hood. You can get the best enjoyment out of your teaching experience by teaching in those schools. Also, that's where the needs are. And then finally, teaching is a calling. It is a calling. Many are called, but few are chosen. This is a job that can stay with you, and I can tell you from experience, if you do it at least 30 times annually, you'll be set for life. I'm a witness.
And Joe, I would be more than happy if anybody is on the call. I am available if they want to either contact you or contact Ruben. If they have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to talk with them.
Yes,
Well,
I
thank you
was going to
very much.
suggest that, Joe.
Yes, me
maybe
too.
If you could put our information out there, even if they're not coming to Florida, there are questions they may have or want us to look at their resume before it goes out, any of those type things.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll post their email addresses in the chat, Brother Grant. I'll send you that information. And Brother Grant, I want to thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity, this voice. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Brother Griffin. Thanks to our panelists, everyone who was able to join us. We definitely appreciate you all giving up your time and your talent. Just so you know, we're developing a Florida Sigma's YouTube site, so this will be going on to there. We'll be sharing this throughout the Brotherhood. So Brother Hawkins will make sure that you get it there for your region as well, because this is not something we want to be just hoarding per se. We want to spread this throughout the entire country and enable people to, as I say, get those jobs, learn about the opportunities, and make sure that this is, as you said, the passion, pursuing your passion and making your calling, and going out and getting on there and helping our kids. That's the bottom line of all of this, helping our children. And Lord knows we need the help. So again, I just want to thank you all. Outstanding panel. Joe, excellent idea. I appreciate you, my brother. And I look forward to just working and man, I'm excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, my sisters. And it's always a pleasure to have us to share these little nuggets from what we make our livelihoods on, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you very much, and we appreciate y'all. And we're going to end the call. And God bless you all.
Hey,
All
thanks,
right.
everybody.
All right.
Have a
Be
good
safe.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.